In this video, we are going to work on page 70 in our binders, which is writing linear equations when you have 2 points. Now I said linear equation, but on your page it says y equals mx plus b, because I know that y equals mx plus b is a type of linear equation, or the equation of a line. Just to recap kind of from yesterday, you know that m is the slope, and you know that b, and whatever sign is in front of it, is the y-intercept. Y and x make an ordered pair. And remember, ordered pairs look like x comma y inside of parentheses. So this is exactly what we did yesterday, except instead of being given the slope, you're given 2 points. But that's okay, because you can use those 2 points to find slope. And then the remaining 3 steps are exactly what we did yesterday. So first you have to find your slope. Then you plug in numbers. Then you solve the equation for your y-intercept. And then you rewrite y equals mx plus b, replacing b with the y-intercept and m with the slope. So let's look at some examples now. First, I know I need to find the slope. Our goal is to write y equals mx plus b, replacing m and b with numbers. So I can find the slope using y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You're going to rewrite that again using parentheses or bubbles in place of all of your numbers. Variables. Now this bubble is in place of y2. y2, I haven't labeled my ordered pairs yet, so let's go ahead and label those. x1, y1, x2, y2. So let's try that again. This bubble is in place of y2, and y2 is 5. This bubble is in place of y1, and y1 is -1. This bubble is in place of x2, and x2 is 4. This bubble is in place of x1, and x1 is 1. Then you can do the subtraction on the top, do the subtraction on the bottom. 5 minus -1 is 6. 4 minus 1 is 3. And that's the same thing as 2. I'm going to write my goal a little lower. That was 6 over 3, which is the same thing as 2. So we know now that our slope is m. Our goal is to write y equals mx plus b. We know m now. We still have to find b. To find b, we're going to rewrite the equation, y equals mx plus b. In place of all of our letters, we're going to put some bubbles, or open parentheses. This bubble is in place of y. You can pick either ordered pair. I'm going to pick to use the ordered pair with the nicest numbers. So for me, that's 1 and -1, because 1s are usually kind of easy to work with. So y is -1. This bubble is in place of m, and our slope, or m, is 2. This bubble is in place of x, and x is 1. And then b is what we're trying to solve for, so I'll leave b as a variable. Then we're going to solve the equation. Remember, you have to do the multiplication on the right first. So you have 2 plus b is equal to -1. b is on the right. To get b by itself, you need to move the constants all to the left. To get rid of a positive 2, you do the opposite, -2. On the left, -1 minus 2 is -3. On the right, 2 and -2 are a 0 pair, and we're left with b, because 0 plus b is b. Now I know that -3 is equal to b. I know m, and now I know b, so I can rewrite the equation y equals mx plus b. I'll write y equals 2x minus 3. Let's do the example on the bottom now. First, let's go ahead and label our ordered pairs, x1, y1, x2, y2. Our goal is to write y equals mx plus b using numbers in place of the slope, or m, and the y-intercept, or b. Well, I don't know either of those things, but since I do have 2 points, I can find the slope. The slope, or m, has a formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to rewrite that again using bubbles in place of all of the variables on the right side. I'm going to keep m as a variable because that's what I'm solving for. Now this bubble is in place of y2, and y2 is -10. This bubble is in place of y1, and y1 is -6. This bubble is in place of x2, and x2 is 2. This bubble is in place of x1, and x1 is -2. In the numerator, we have -10 minus -6, which is -4. The denominator is 2 minus -2, which is 4. Now, -4 over 4 is the same thing as -1. So now we know our slope, or m, but we still have to find b. And we know from yesterday that if we have the slope in just 1 point, we can solve the equation for b. I'm going to pick an ordered pair with the numbers that are easiest to work with for me. I'm going to pick the second ordered pair because 10 is easier to work with than 6 for me. So 2 is what I'm using in place of x, and -10 is what I'm using in place of y. So rewrite the equation, y equals mx plus b. Replace all of the letters with bubbles except for the one that you're trying to solve for, which is b. Okay. This bubble is in place of y, and the y value I'm using is -10. This bubble is in place of m. The slope we found is -1. This bubble is in place of x. I have to use the 2 for x because I used the y value from this ordered pair. I couldn't use the -2 because that's not in the same ordered pair that I've already used. Have to use the numbers from the same ordered pair. So x is going to be 2. I've drawn my line down the equal sign, and I think I'm ready to start solving. -1 times 2 is -2. We still have plus b. On the left side, the only term there is a -10. Now, b is on the right side. We need to move all of the constants to the opposite side. So to move -2 to the opposite side, we use the opposite operation. Instead of -2, we'll use a +2. On the left side, negative 10 plus 2 is negative 8. On the right side, negative 2 and positive 2 make a 0 pair, and 0 plus b is b. Now, we know the y-intercept. Since we know both the y-intercept and the slope, we can write the linear equation in slope-intercept form. So I'll have y equals negative x minus 8. I don't have the 1 there because 1 is invisible when I'm multiplying by it. Negative x is the same thing as negative 1x. That's because 1 times x is just x. Looking at the third example in that column. Now my goal is to write y equals mx plus b, replacing the y-intercept b with a number and m with a number. I don't know either of those things yet, or I don't think I do, but I know how to find slope when I have two ordered pairs. I'll use the slope formula, which I remember is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to replace everything with letters except for the m because I'm trying to solve for m. I think I said that wrong. I'm replacing all of the letters with bubbles except for m because I'm trying to solve for m. This bubble's in place of y2, and again I forgot to label my ordered pairs, so I'll label that x1, y1, x2, y2. Let's try that again. This bubble is in place of y2, and y2 is 4. This bubble is in place of y1, and y1 is 5. This bubble is in place of x2, and x2 is 3. This bubble is in place of x1, and x1 is 0. The numerator is 4 minus 5, which is negative 1. The denominator is 3 minus 0, which is 3. You can check on your calculator, but negative 1 over 3 cannot be reduced. So now I know that my slope, or m, is negative 1 over 3. Now that I know that, I'm ready to find the y-intercept, because I might not know it yet. So I write the equation that I'm going to use, and I'm going to put bubbles in place of every letter, except for b because I'm trying to solve for b. And I'm going to use the ordered pair that has the easiest numbers for me to work with. 0 and 5 are both usually pretty easy numbers to work with, so I'll pick that ordered pair. Now, 0 is the x value and 5 is the y value, so I have to use 0 and 5 in my equation. Because I picked this ordered pair, I'm not going to use the 3 or the 4. You can forget about that other ordered pair now. This bubble is in place of y, and y is 5. This bubble is in place of m, and m, is negative 1/3. This bubble is in place of x, and x is 0. And then b is what we're trying to solve for, so that's going to stay a letter. I'm ready to start solving. This is the only term on the left, so I look to the right. I can multiply that out. Anything times 0 is 0. We still have plus b. And then I'm going to drop the 5 down. 0 plus b is just b. So now I know that b is equal to 5. Now that I know m and b, I can write the linear equation. So y equals, instead of m, we're writing negative 1/3, x plus 5 plus b. There was a more simple way to do this because we already knew the y-intercept. The x value was 0, which means 5 had to be the y-intercept. Y-intercepts are ordered pairs that look like 0 in the number. So I knew that this was the y-intercept. And we can see that the y-intercept is 5, just like in this ordered pair. Looking at the second column, the top example, our goal is to write y equals mx plus b. We want to replace the y-intercept with a number and the slope with a number. I think I don't know either of those yet, but I do know how to find the slope. To find the slope with ordered pairs, I use the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to replace everything that I think I can find using parentheses. I'm not replacing m with parentheses because I'm trying to solve for it. Before I get started filling numbers in here, I should label my ordered pairs. Call that x1 and y1, x2 and y2. So this bubble is in place of y2, and y2 is 5. This bubble is in place of y1, and y1 is 14. This bubble is in place of x2, and x2 is 0. This bubble is in place of x1, and x1 is 3. The subtraction on the top is 5 minus 14, which is negative 9. The subtraction on the bottom is 0 minus 3, which is negative 3. And negative 9 over negative 3 is the same as 3. So now we know the slope. I know that this ordered pair is the ordered pair of the y-intercept because it's got x as 0, which means b is 5. So now that I know m and I know b, I can write the equation. The equation is y equals 3x plus 5. Looking at the middle example, my goal is to write y equals mx plus b, replacing the y-intercept b with a number, and the slope m with a number. I don't know either of those things yet, but I can use the slope formula to find the slope between these two ordered pairs. So let's label those. That's x1 and y1. That's x2 and y2. The slope formula, remember, is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to rewrite that using bubbles in place of every letter or variable. Now I'm going to start plugging numbers into each of those bubbles. This bubble is in place of y2, and y2 is negative 1. This bubble is in place of y1, and y1 is negative 4. This bubble is in place of x2, and x2 is 2. This bubble is in place of x1, and x1 is negative 4. The subtraction for the numerator is negative 1 minus negative 4, which is positive 3. The subtraction on the bottom is 2 minus negative 4, which is 6. And 3 over 6 reduces to 1 over 2. Now we know that the slope is negative 1 over 2, so we know m. To find b, we're going to have to pick one ordered pair. I'm going to pick the second ordered pair because 2's and 1's are easier for me to work with than the 4's. So now I know m, x, and y, which means I could rewrite this equation, leaving everything as a number except for b. I can solve for b and then have both m and b, which is what we're going to do. We're going to rewrite y equals mx plus b, replacing all of our letters with parentheses, We're solving for b, so that's going to stay a letter. Now this bubble is in place of y, and the y value is -1. This bubble is in place of m, and m is 1/2. This bubble is in place of x. I have to use x equals 2 because I already used the y value from this ordered pair. I cannot use the -4 because I didn't use this y value. So I'm using 2 here, and then plus b. I'm ready to start solving the equation. I know I'll have -1 on the left. Well, -1/2 times 2 on the right is 1, and we'll still have plus b. To get b all by itself, I have to move this constant 1 to the opposite side. So I'll do that by using the opposite operation. Right now, it's positive, so to undo that, I minus. I'm minusing 1 from both sides. On the left, -1 minus -1, I'm sorry, that says -1 minus 1. And -1 minus 1 is -2. On the right, I have 1 minus 1, which makes a 0 pair. And we're left with 0 plus b, which is just b. Now I know that the y-intercept is -2. I now know the y-intercept and the slope, which means I can write the equation y equals 1/2 x minus 2. Looking at our last example, our goal is to write y equals mx plus b, and we're going to replace the slope, or m, with a number, and the y-intercept, or b, with a number. I don't know those things yet, but I can use the slope formula to find m. The slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to rewrite that, putting bubbles in place of all the numbers. This bubble is in place of y2. Oops, I forgot to label the ordered pairs. So we'll go ahead and label those x1, y1, x2, y2. Let's try that again. This bubble is in place of y2, and y2 is -2. This bubble is in place of y1, and y1 is -2. This bubble is in place of x1, or x2 I mean, and x2 is 5. This bubble is in place of x1, and x1 is -3. Now looking at the subtraction for the numerator, you have -2 minus -2. You're taking something away from itself, that's 0. On the denominator, we have 5 minus -3. 5 minus -3 is 8. Well, 0 divided by 8 is 0. Now I know the slope. So let's find the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, we're going to write the equation y equals mx plus b. I'm going to put bubbles everywhere I see a variable, except for b, because I'm trying to solve for b. I need to pick an ordered pair. I'm going to pick this ordered pair because for me, 5 is easier to work with than 3. In place of, this bubble is in place of y, and y is -2. This bubble is in place of m, and m is 0. This bubble is in place of x, and x is is 5. Sorry. And then b is what we're solving for. I'm ready to start solving. On the right side, 0 times 5 is 0. So we have 0 plus b. On the left side, bring that -2 down. Now this is -2 equals 0 plus b. 0 plus b, however, is just b. So we know that b is -2. Now that I know m and b, I can rewrite the equation. So the equation will say y equals 0x minus 2. 0x is equal to 0. So you don't write that, because a more efficient way to communicate that is y equals negative 2. That's all the notes for writing a linear equation when you know 2 points. That was page 78. If you flip to page 79, I'd like to get you started on one of the homework problems. Looking at number 2 on the homework. Let's first label this x1, y1, x2, y2. Your goal is to eventually write y equals mx plus b, replacing m and b with numbers. Replacing m, the slope, with a number, and b, the y-intercept, with a number. Okay. So first we're going to try to find the slope using the slope formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And we're going to replace all of those letters with bubbles. This bubble is in place of y2, which is 4. This bubble is in place of y1, which is 4. This bubble is in place of x2, which is 0. This bubble is in place of x1, which is negative 1. Well, 4 minus 4 is 0. 0 minus negative 1 is 1. And 0 divided by 1 is 0. So your slope is 0. Now we're going to rewrite the equation y equals mx plus b. I'm going to pick an ordered pair to use. I'm going to pick 0, 4 because zeros are easier for me to work with than negative ones. Before I get started, I know that 0 is an x value. That's 0, b, which means that's the y-intercept. B is 4. So I know b and I know m, which means we can write the equation y equals 0x plus 4. 0x is just equal to 0, so the better way to write this is y equals 4. This is a more efficient way to communicate because you don't have as many things to write down. There's not as many things that could get lost through our communication. So y equals 4 would be the equation that I'm accepting. If you didn't know that that was the y-intercept, that's okay. What you would have done is replaced all of the letters except for b with bubbles. This bubble's in place of y, which is 4. This bubble's in place of m, which is 0. This bubble's in place of x, which is 0. Then you can do the multiplication. 0 times 0 is 0. Drop down the 4. 0 plus b is b, so you know that b equals 4, which is exactly what we found. As always, if you have questions or concerns about the content or this lesson or this homework, please send me a message via Schoology or drop a comment on the video or send me an email, and I'd be happy to get back to you as soon as possible with answers to your questions.